So last year, for those of you who were here, I gave a talk on the LLVM Governance Proposal, and we've got some updates we wanted to share on where that's going and where we're going with it. One of the big things to point out is that we went through a lot of feedback. At the conference last year, through Euro LLVM, through reviews and discussions on Discord and GitHub, we got lots and lots of feedback. It made the proposal much better. It slimmed it down, it simplified it. And we went through the LLVM pitch process to really get to a point where we felt we could make a decision in kind of the structured and proper way to make this kind of big decision to the community. Last week, we actually had a meeting of the review managers. This was through the pitch process, and the review managers approved the proposal. So we're there. We're actually going to do this. And so let's talk about what that is. We approved that we're going to form 5 initial area teams. We scoped this down so that we have a smaller number of initial volunteers that we need. And then we are going to kind of make it the governance team's problem to figure out how to scale this and address the bigger needs over time. These area teams will form the initial project council, and the initial project council will handle everything else from there. And we're going to do the first elections we're going to aim for in January of next year. This is a starting point. This is not a solution. It's not perfect. As with everything we do in LLVM, this will be an iterative process. And we really want to make sure that this is part of LLVM's culture of iterating to get to the right solution. One part of that we added in very late to the proposal was having an annual report that is going to come out of the project council to talk about what's going on in the governance process and how, that's the venue that we'll use for suggesting improvements. The really short TLDR here for contributors is actually a lot should stay the same, okay? Today, a lot of things work. We don't want to change what's working and what's allowing you to be productive. What we do want, though, is we really want to make sure that we have adequate maintainers and coverage of the code base to make sure that your PRs are getting reviewed and that things are going through. The area teams are going to help us make sure, because we're going to make someone responsible for making sure that ownership is there. The area teams are also going to make sure that RFCs being discussed on Discourse get reviewed, that they get the attention, that they reach a decision. Because one of the problems that we've often had in the community is that we don't necessarily reach a decision as quickly as we should. And lastly, the area teams are going to take over running the LLVM proposal process for the cases where we need to use that process to reach a result. Area teams, this kind of quick recap to give you guys updates, is they're going to be 3-member teams to start with. This, again, reduces our number of volunteers that we need to get this off the ground. But we're going to allow them to grow up to 9, just so that, as areas need more perspective and more people, you can scale them as is appropriate. Each area team has kind of a defined area in the project or a scope of where they're going to be assisting and where they're going to be focusing. But the mandate for the area teams is really about facilitating decision-making and helping make sure that decisions get reached. We're going to we want the area teams to also play this role where they help groom other people into the community and help grow the talent and expand community leadership. And so one of the things that we have in the proposal is that, we expect that people on the area team are going to help identify maintainers. They're also going to help identify people who could take part in the area teams in the future and really take a shepherding role. And of course, this last one is maintainer coverage is huge. This has been a problem for the community for years. And so we really, really, really need to make sure that there's someone responsible for this. The way that you get on an area team is, we're going to have elections. You just need to be a member of the LLVM GitHub organization, and anyone can nominate themselves or anyone else to run for a position on the area teams. In future years, hopefully the area teams will be actively recruiting to kind of keep people flowing through. Project council is going to be formed by 1 representative from each of the area teams. It's going to act as really this oversight body, and it's the catch-all. Anything that doesn't have an area team that's responsible for it, it bubbles up to the project council. This means that we'd have no areas under the LLVM open source project that will not have someone that is responsible for helping facilitate decision making. The project council is also going to be this final decision maker. If no one else can reach an agreement, the project council will be able to step in and say, this is the decision we're making. And one thing that's, so much of this is central around decision making. I think there's a line in the proposal that I think is like really crucial to understand. Is like, it is better to say no promptly than it is to say maybe for 2 years. And so one of the things that we really want is to make sure that decisions get made on a timeline and that everyone knows when those decisions are going to be made. And of course, the project council, as I said before, is going to put up an annual report and make sure everyone knows, here's what's going on, here's how the community is growing, here's things that we can do to improve, and here's the problems that the community is facing for the next couple of years. Running the elections, anyone in the GitHub organization is going to be eligible to vote. We're not going to restrict voting by where you contribute or how you contribute, but we are going to use the GitHub organization as the metric for this, just because it's easy. This can change over time, and it's not perfect, but the real goal was to make this execution as simple as we can. We're going to have some automated process to associate email addresses with GitHub IDs. We do have policy changes that went in recently for the LLVM project where we require that you have a email address that you monitor associated with your GitHub account. As long as people follow that, our scripts will be able to identify that you have an email address, and we'll use that for voter registration. All of the voting is going to be conducted by email for the first time. There's an email system, voting system that's used by Python and some other projects that we're going to use. And we'll see how this goes. If this doesn't work, if this is a mess, we'll try something else next time around. Some real quick dates for people. I'm going to publish the voter identification scripts at the beginning of December, and we're going to do some tests where I'm going to run the scripts, generate everyone's voter information, send out some emails, and then post on Discourse to let you guys know, hey, if you got an email, you're registered to vote. If you didn't, tell me so that we can figure out what's going on. We'll do a couple rounds of that to make sure that we have good voter coverage, and these are the dates we're going to try to do it. And then after we've kind of got the logistics of that working, we're going to do nominations and voting following the way that the proposal laid out, how many weeks for each. And then hopefully by the second week in February, we will have elected our first project governance. That's really the whole thing I got for you today. I think I'm super excited that we've made progress on this and that it's going to hopefully solve a really long-lasting problem in our community. Thank you all.